Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about the maintenance requirements for the LabMaster Neo. The good news is that the maintenance requirements for the Neo are very limited because it really doesn't require a lot of maintenance, especially in comparison to other types of water activity instruments, where the sensor itself has to be kept very clean. And if it's not, then it will influence the readings. In the case of the Neo, the sensor is protected behind a mesh filter, so the sensor never comes into contact with the product itself. One thing you want to make sure is that you don't remove that mesh filter and mess around with the sensor like trying to clean it. That's never something that you would ever want to do. So the only thing that really needs to be maintained within the Neo chamber is just the chamber itself. So if through the testing practices, you might have some samples that are on the outside of the cup that get put into the chamber, and that's a great tip is that when you are testing with your sample cup, always check your sample cup, the bottom of it or the sides of it, to make sure you don't have sample on there. Taking a Kim wipe and wiping that off before you put in the instruments is a great idea. That'll prevent contaminating the chamber. If you do bring a lot of contamination into the chamber, it could impact readings because you have products that aren't supposed to be in the reading that are influencing what the vapor pressure is in the chamber. So if you do have some residue get on from bringing test samples in, you can just simply wipe it down with a Kim wipe or a towel, and you would wipe out the chamber and making sure that everything's been cleaned up, and wipe the surrounding areas. You can do a wipe around the top here, although you don't have to do a lot of wiping down in here because, again, there's very little chance that the sample is going to have any contact with that. If you do overfill your sample cup, that could cause problems. So it's another great tip is that when taking a sample within the cup, you only want to fill it at the most half full, but typically a quarter to a half full. And because water activity is a qualitative test, it doesn't matter how much sample's in there. It just matters that you have enough sample in there to dictate what the vapor pressure is. So no need to overfill it, no need to weigh it before you read it. It doesn't have to be the same weight every time. There is an IR sensor that reads the temperature of the sample. It's fairly protected and recessed, so there's not, again, a lot of chance that you would need to clean that. If you do, then you might use just a Kim wipe and put it up inside of there and clean that IR sensor if necessary. If you do get the samples that are high in fat on the chamber, you may need to use some isopropyl alcohol to get that off, but you would never want to put isopropyl alcohol up on the top part here because that could impact the sensor itself. So only would you clean this bottom portion if needed with some isopropyl if you had some high fat samples on there. But otherwise, if you are going to clean in this upper area, it's just a Kim wipe with some water and then a dry Kim wipe. Again, never leaving the mesh filter and never messing with the sensor behind it. After you've cleaned the chamber, if it's necessary to do any kind of cleaning on it, you always want to run a verification / calibration after you've done that. So it's always a good practice to do that. The information about how to run a verification can be found in a video, which will be linked here. And so you can go there and see how to run that verification. Other than that, there's really not any other maintenance requirements for the LabMaster Neo. As we indicated, it's quite easy instrument to use with very low maintenance requirements associated with it. You only actually need to verify and calibrate the instrument weekly. If you're doing lots and lots of tests on a daily basis, you may want to move that verification to a daily verification. But because this instrument is protected and not susceptible, nearly as susceptible to contamination as other instruments, it's much easier to maintain without the laborious time requirements that could go with the high maintenance of other instruments. So with that, we'll end this video, and we thank you for participating.